Morning Liberty.
Good morning, Liberty. I just love that, you know?
Yeah,
love it every single time.
It's a pretty fun intro.
Right.
Those little alarm sounds can get kind of annoying, but it is Good Morning Liberty.
It lets you know that, this is the Good Morning Liberty podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Nate.
Wow, look at that. And we want to let you know that go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today, we actually have no time limit.
They can do it throughout the whole thing?
The whole episode, you can do it. Now, tomorrow, that's only going to be for this episode, though.
Okay.
Tomorrow, there's another time limit.
You know, you didn't talk to me about that marketing decision
I made
beforehand.
An executive decision just now. We got a lot to talk about today. I think the New York mayor, Bill de Blasio, was on Hannity for about 40-something minutes yelling back and forth. And God, that guy's just such a nice guy.
Yeah, I have a hard time listening to Hannity anyway, just full disclosure.
Yeah.
He's I just get kind of anxious, listening to him interview people.
I agree with some of the things, but he's pretty Republican statist.
He's like an always Trumper. And I don't think it's good to be a never Trumper or anything like that. But you should just be principled all the time. And from what I hear from Hannity, he's like an always Trumper no matter what. So that's kind of dangerous. But I cut up a bunch of clips from this interview that are just infuriating. So upset that this is and the reason I wanted, de Blasio is not like a serious contender for the president or anything like that. But I do think that his ideas represent an ideology that a large portion of the country has. That's why I brought them up. And
he holds a pretty powerful political office as the mayor of the biggest city in the United States.
I mean, he's a mayor over millions of people.
Yeah.
Millions and millions. He's the mayor of
14 million people?
like as many people as some of those European countries that people talk about all the time. Like Denmark. De Blasio might be over as many people as, whoever it is that's running Denmark. So he's got a lot of power. And I think his ideas are really the base ideas for a lot of people. A lot. I've seen a lot of people online talking about some of these they're kind of purely communist ideas, honestly. Very socialist, if not communist. But I just wanted to, maybe we can give a rebuke on some of them. The first one is going to be about gun rights, because it's very hard to be able to have a gun in New York. Hannity's talking about that. And he was asking him about whether or not people should have the right to defend themselves.
Well, so in this, we're going to rip apart de Blasio on gun rights. There's also taxes in there.
CEO pay. Climate change. We're going to go over, even he talks about setting nutrition rules for schools. And, in New York, they outlawed big gulps, and they've taken salt off of all of the restaurant tables. You can't have salt on the tables.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so some of that big government daddy stuff, your big parent, the government. So we'll talk about some of those things. We're going to talk about the top marginal tax rate in the 50s, which is something he goes to a lot. He's got a website called taxthehell.com. Because his thing is that he's going to tax the hell out of the rich. He's got the most progressive tax plan out of all of the presidential candidates, and he's proud of it.
Yeah.
So
it should be like steal the hell.
Yeah.
Steal the hell out of everything.
Let's just call it what it is.
So we're going to dive into all that. But first, I wanted to let you guys know to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Again, because we need you guys to do that. We had today actually has been the biggest downloads on this show.
Most amount of downloads we've ever had.
And Good Morning Liberty is all about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning. It's very important that we talk about these things. And so, man, I just thank you guys for being here.
I do too.
It's very nice to have all of you as friends of the show.
Well, without further ado,
let's dive in.
Here we go.
Ready to get angry?
You have that. Hollywood stars can afford armed guards. Should every New Yorker, should every American have the ability, if God forbid the criminal element invades their home, invades their property, to have a gun in their home to protect themselves?
Okay.
Like you do.
You're in the...
Okay.
Seems like a very simple question.
That's a pretty simple question, which he will not say no. Hannity's trying to force him to answer the question, which is no. He does not think that you have the right to have a gun in your home and protect yourself. That's kind of, which I've got another clip that goes right along with this. I have 2 clips marked down here right together, but this kind of goes along the lines of the Second Amendment and what that really is, because some people in the government act like that's a right that the government has given you, when in fact it is actually a right that you were born with. Pretty simple idea, I guess. Mm-hmm. You have the right to protect yourself. That seems like a pretty basic idea.
Which probably derives a little bit, I'd say, from your right to life.
Yeah, already.
Like you have a right to if someone is trying to take your right to life, you have a right to defend against that.
But he thinks that, we just need more police officers, and that's what will fix the problem. He makes that argument a lot throughout this conversation. And we've told this story before, but Charlie and I know just from our little example, we waited 45 minutes on the cops one time. After we told them someone was pulling a gun on us. We waited 45 minutes.
We don't have a shortage of police problem.
No,
that's for sure.
It's just that here's the deal. When someone breaks into your home, you're not going to have time to wait for a cop to get there. No offense to police officers at all, but you're not going to put a police officer inside everyone's home so they can be there to defend people when someone breaks in your home.
Here's another crazy story. I just read this. I believe it was in Ohio too. There was a house alarm that went off, triggered police. It was the middle of the night, and a 65-year-old man thought his home was being broken into. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think. And so he got a gun to protect himself. And the cop showed up and opened the front door and shot the homeowner.
Wow.
So the cop responded and thought that like the homeowner was the burglar and shot him. Now, luckily he didn't die.
Yeah.
But internal investigation says that the cop followed policy and didn't do anything wrong.
Open the door and start shooting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this guy has a history of shooting people.
Okay.
So it's like he's a
the homeowner did?
No, the cop.
Okay.
He's a trigger happy cop.
One more thing on gun rights.
I believe people have rights. I believe we need new gun safety laws.
I believe people have rights. Should they have the right to a gun?
We have a police department, and I've added 2,000 officers on patrol in this city in the last few years.
Great.
That is making it safer all the time. That's the best way to protect people.
Should every New Yorker that has a perfect mental health, have a perfect mental health record and have a background check, would you agree that they have a right
They have a right to be safe.
Do you agree they have a right to have a gun in their house?
They have a right to be safe.
Great. Do they have a right to a gun?
I'm telling you what I think.
Yes or no?
Safest. I've answered you. The safest way to do it.
You're not answering.
Have a police department that is supported.
By the time you call the cops, even if it's a great response time, you might be dead.
Again, we just have a different.
You're protected. You have a team around you. Does every New Yorker, if somebody breaks into their house, they're good people, they're law-abiding people, pay their taxes, obey the rules, pass the background check, should they have a right to a gun in their house? Yes or no?
I ain't buying what you're selling.
You're not buying.
I ain't buying what
I ain't buying what you're selling.
Deflect.
Yeah. So he believes the safest thing. Hannity kept asking, like, do they have a right to defend themselves? Do they have the right to have a gun? He says they have the right to be safe. He kept saying they have the right to be safe over and over again. And he thinks that the safest thing is to have more police officers. But then obviously Hannity correctly points out, like we were just saying, that you don't have time to wait for the cops to get to your house. So the guy's saying you have a right to be safe. How can he know? How can he know that your right to be safe is taken care of by having more police officers in town? How can he know that?
And not only that, and I'm looking this up right now, but there was a Supreme Court case where the Supreme Court ruled that the police officers do not have an obligation. They do not have a constitutional duty to protect anyone.
Yeah, which is another thing we talked about when we were talking.
So sure, like hire 1 million police officers.
Yeah.
They're not held liable for anything.
Well, and they're still not going to be inside everyone's house when someone breaks in.
Right.
There's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Plus, that's a violation of the...
Yeah, they can't do it anyway.
That's the Third Amendment, right?
But like, I guess if you had the maybe you have to hire everyone has to hire their own private security. That's basically what it is. Because
it was Castle Rock versus Gonzalez. So that was the case if you want to look it up.
So they ruled that police officers are actually not obligated by law to protect you in a situation.
No duty
to actually protect you. Like you watch the cops watch people set the town on fire when they're rioting and things like that. I mean, they don't really have any obligation to protect property at all.
They don't.
Not at all. If so, they would be doing something about it. Once again, this is not a knock on police whatsoever.
There's a lot of police officers who do a lot of great things.
Of course, the bulk of police officers do a lot of great things, but that does not mean that they are going to be there to protect people at the time that something bad is happening. That means they're going to show up and write a report afterwards. That's what they're going to do. I'm sorry.
Firefighters don't prevent fires in your house.
They don't.
You call them. You call them when there's a fire and they come put it out.
It's like you're outlawing the sprinkler systems. No, you can't have those. I think everyone has a right to be safe. So we're going to have more firefighters. And Hannity's like, but can they have a sprinkler system in their house? And he's like, I think we need more firefighters. That's what he's saying, back and forth right there.
It's so true.
So
essentially, like, no, de Blasio's stance is, and I think he finally says no, doesn't he? Yeah. He finally is like, no, you don't have a right to a gun, which is just like, how is that? How did that guy swear an oath to the Constitution? Because he did. Like, to take his position as mayor of New York, he had to swear an oath to the Constitution, and clearly, he doesn't even have an obligation to his oath.
It's that idea, this basic misunderstanding of what the Bill of Rights is. There's like this understanding now that this is a list of rights that the government has given to people that are in America, and that's not the case at all. They are a list of rights that people naturally have just by being human beings. And then the government said, we will protect those rights, meaning we will not let anyone else take those rights away from you, except for the government, I guess. They can come in and take those rights away from you. But the thing is that those are not rights that you were given. They were rights that you were born with. So this is a non-issue. This is about whether or not the government can take away your rights. That's all it is.
And I would go so far to say that even if, which will never happen, but even if the government they ratify another amendment to get rid of the Second Amendment, it doesn't change the fact that you have a natural right to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's just not listed anymore. You still have a natural right to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But it just says that the government's not going to protect that right for you anymore. So, all right. Switching over to CEO pay. Go.
Collar guy that worked 25 years in
I'm
real
saying,
work.
Do you think it's okay? There are CEOs in America making
what I'm most happy about?
200, 400 times what an average worker in a company's making.
I am so happy.
Do you think that's okay?
That I gave you the numbers under Biden, Obama.
Okay, so this idea talked about, obviously, by most people on the left all the time, a lot of people, this idea that it's wrong for CEOs to make hundreds of times more than their workers. And the only thing I can come up with on this, which obviously they're making an emotional plea, trying to get you upset about how much the person that runs the company you work at is making. But the other argument that they're making is that this is somehow affecting people's pay. Like, people are not getting paid enough in America. That's what they're trying to reach in this argument. And then they're saying, well, the CEOs are making this much money, and so this is one of the reasons why people aren't making enough money, because CEOs are getting paid way too much. And we've done this a million times, but I actually came up with a slightly new way to do it today. But
I'm interested to hear this.
Yeah. So I still took.
I think I'm going to subscribe.
Good. You should hit subscribe, Charlie. I'm going to take, once again, Doug McMillon, Walmart's CEO, makes $22 million per year. Okay. Now they've got over 2 million employees. We're just going to say 2.2 million employees. It's like 2.3, 2.4, something like that.
So that means he gets a $2 million check every month from Walmart?
No. Actually, his base salary is about $2 million. That's
okay.
That's what the rest of it is just in stock options that they give him. So his base salary is still just around $2 million, something like that.
Gotcha.
The rest of it, he only makes that if the company's doing really well. It's like a bonus for doing a good job at your job. So they've got over 2 million employees. So rough math on that will tell you, if they've got 2.2 million employees, that each employee is paying technically $10 per year of their pay goes to the CEO. Now, worked out in hours, what I did was I did 25 hours per week on average for the 52 weeks out of the year. That comes out to 1,300 hours that the employees would work in a year. So dividing that out, you get about a cent. So here's the per hour, 1 cent per hour. So here's the idea behind this. This is what I want you to imagine. Let's take their CEO's pay. Let's take all their CEO's pay and let's pay him the same amount of money that the employees are making per hour. Let's level all of them out. Let's just all of them make the same amount of money per hour. So Walmart's minimum is $11 an hour. That's what you get hired at. So I'm just going to use $11 an hour, even though on average they probably pay more than $11 an hour, I would say. So we're just going to use $11 an hour is what everyone's getting paid. Now, if we take the CEO's pay and we decide we're just going to pay him the same amount that everyone else is getting paid, and that's going to fix the problem, right? Well, what happens when you do that is everyone's pay goes from $11 an hour to $11.01 per hour. That's the move you're talking about. So this is why I get so frustrated when they start talking about CEOs making 300 or 400 times more what their workers are. What's your point? What's your point that you're trying to make? What is it? Because the first reaction, people who don't pay attention to the numbers or don't study a lot of economics, the first reaction is, well, that's terrible. They're getting paid that much. We should be able to pay everyone else more money, but they're paying their CEO way too much money, and that's why our pay is so low. That's got to be the reaction that they're trying to get out of that. Mm-hmm. But then when you take his money away and you pay him the same amount as everyone else, everyone's pay at Walmart goes up by 1 cent per hour, meaning this is a absolute non-issue. The actual issue is, what if they hire a terrible CEO because they decide they're going to pay them $11.01 per hour, and then the company goes bankrupt and 2.2 million employees lose their jobs?
Well, that'll never happen, Nate.
Of course, that would just never happen, would it?
These are just rich companies. Companies never fail.
They don't. Yeah. All businesses make it.
Never seen a company fail.
Oh, man. So one more thing about corporations.
And pay as little in taxes.
Do you think I work?
You think it's okay that big corporations pay nothing in taxes?
Do you know how much I make?
Do you think that's okay?
No, corporations pass taxes on to people. Corporations don't pay taxes.
There are corporations that pay no taxes in America.
Listen.
Amazon's one of them.
Listen, all I know is...
You think that's okay?
Okay.
You already debunked this yesterday.
We did this yesterday. Pretty easy one right here. Last year, 2018, all of your news headlines are going to say that Amazon paid $0 in taxes last year. That number is on federal income tax, federal corporate tax. That's what that number is. Mm-hmm. In reality, Amazon paid $1.4 billion in taxes last year. They've paid billions in taxes. They actually have done this. So the funny thing I saw about this is, here's the funny part. Charlie, if you were going to buy something, where's the cheapest place you think you could go to buy something?
Like I have to physically go somewhere? Or...
No, just you need to buy a product. What are you going to do?
Oh, most of the time I just go to Amazon.
Okay. Probably, you ever go shopping in the store and you pick something up off the shelf and what do you say when you pick it up off the shelf and see how much it costs? I
don't really pay attention to sticker prices anymore.
Well, back when you used to be poor, what would you say?
I'm kidding. I do. I try to find the bargain. I was like, I wonder if this is cheaper somewhere else.
Yeah, probably Amazon, right?
Yeah. A lot of times I look it up on the phone.
So where's, more often than not, where's the cheapest place you can go to buy goods?
Usually Amazon.
Okay. What business do all of these people on the left demonize about not paying taxes?
Amazon. Okay,
wait. Where's the cheapest place you can go to buy things most of the time?
Amazon.
All right.
Like not the jungle.
Okay, well, which corporation do people on the left demonize for not paying taxes all the time?
Amazon.
Do you guys see the trend here?
That's a lot of Amazon answers. Amazon.com, I should say.
Yeah, that's the actual corporate name. But, okay, I hope you caught that trend there. The cheapest place most of the time for you to buy goods is also the place that everyone is upset with them not paying enough taxes. Yet it's the cheapest place for you to go buy everything all the time. Why do you think that is? It's almost like taxes are a portion of everything that you buy all the time.
I think it is.
That's kind of a weird idea.
Remember back in the day when, and I think some states still have this, where you order something online and you didn't have to pay taxes on that product because it was online.
A lot of states still
No sales tax.
Still do have that. Some of the states have passed sales tax, especially with Amazon. I know Washington did. I know Illinois did.
Tennessee did.
Because
we don't have a state income tax.
Yeah.
So everything is off of sales tax, which if I'm going to pay taxes, a use tax to me is the best. I said this the other day. I went to the lake a couple weeks ago, and I had to pay $5 to get in to access the lake. No big deal. I've never paid that my whole life. My whole life, nobody stole any money from me, and they were like, "Hey, if you want to come in to access this government property that we shouldn't have, but we do, then we're going to charge you $5 to use it." And I'm like, I'm much happier to pay that amount. Or if I buy goods or services, then pay a sales tax on that. That's fine with me because it is a use tax basically. So if I'm going to have to pay taxes, because if I don't want to pay taxes, I just stop buying stuff. It's the best way.
Well, so in this conversation, I also wanted to point out, did you know that the rich are paying less and less in taxes all the time? Less and less.
I didn't know that, actually.
I didn't know that. Well, you should know.
They actually pay
Hey, the
all the
Obama
taxes.
years-
From Reagan till now, the rich have gotten consistently richer, paying less and less in
Keep going
taxes.
back to this.
No, because 40 years is a long time, and we have got to break out of it.
Can you
know
admit
when the good
Donald
old
Trump-
days were? We know when the good old days were? Eisenhower and Kennedy, when the wealthy paid taxes at the level I'm proposing, wealth was better shared.
Okay, so the rich are paying less and less in taxes. That's the basic idea here, and this is, I think, also a mentality around the country. I think you could ask anyone this, and they would tell you that this is true. So I was looking at this graph earlier, and the graph went back to the 80s. It went back to the early 80s. So it was really interesting to watch these lines diverge, because what happened was in the 80s, when they had a higher marginal tax rate, here's the interesting statistic. Beginning in the 80s, the highest tax rate was 70%. 70%. And at that time, the richest 1%, were paying 32% of the total amount of taxes that came in to the United States, while there was a 70% top marginal tax rate.
What's the 70% that was over $1 million?
At that time, it would have been over probably around 600,000 or 700,000, something like that. The 50s rate was over 200,000. So 800,000. So the top marginal rate was, because this is what he's arguing for, is that we go back to a really high top marginal rate. Mm-hmm. So starting in the early 80s, the top marginal was still 70%. And the rich people were accounting for 32% of the total tax money that was coming in to the United States. So now, fast forward to 2000s. Now the top marginal tax rate, what they're actually paying, is around 20%. This is what they're doing. So do you know how much they're covering in taxes now?
The top 1%?
Yeah.
Like probably half.
Yeah, it's 47%.
47%.
As the rate has decreased over that span of 30 years,
The government's gotten more money from them.
the government has taken more money from them. So that,
And plus, the revenues keep going up.
Yeah.
Revenues, the extortion.
Yeah.
Do you know what the government revenues were in the 80s?
well,
Like $2 trillion probably?
Oh yeah, I don't know what the
Maybe
actual tax.
$1.5 trillion?
I don't know what the tax receipts were in that time. No,
Yeah.
I did not look at
we're
that.
up to like, what, 3.6 trillion?
Something like that. Yeah, right around 3.5 trillion is what they're taking from the people against their will.
Here's the other thing I want to say about that is you have to remember that that tax rate was on an income tax rate.
Yeah,
So they were paying 70% of their income. Like, do you know what Warren Buffett's income is?
probably almost nothing.
I think it's $1.
Yeah.
Like his salary is $1.
Yeah,
Most of your CEOs, like you said, the check that the CEO from Walmart receives is $2 million. Like that's his salary. So that's his income. Everything else that he receives in stocks, he doesn't get taxed on. And when he decides to draw it out of his stocks, he pays a capital gains rate.
yeah. So you're saying we should raise the capital gains rate?
No, but what I'm
Okay.
saying is that Raising the federal income tax rate to 70%, sure, it doesn't do anything. Rich people don't pay that rate. They never have. They never will.
Well, speaking of that, one more little clip from that.
People paid for that action by your friend, the president.
What should the federal tax rate be for individuals? 70%.
For folks who make over $2 million income.
70%.
70%.
So that means they get
over $2 million. So
that means they get to
Walmart
keep 30%.
CEO wouldn't even qualify.
Yeah.
Okay, you take 70 cents out of every dollar.
Again, how long did we have in this country? For decades. Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy. That was the tax rate then.
70 cents out of every dollar.
Okay. So that's going back to this thing that people on the left like to talk about right now, which was that we had a really high tax rate back in the 1950s. It was a high marginal tax rate, but you might be surprised to know that the top tax rate was 91%, the top marginal tax rate. Mm-hmm. So that's what a lot of these people are arguing that we should go back to, and that's going to fix the problem, apparently. So something like that. So here's the funny part. In the 50s, when the top marginal tax rate was 91%, what do you think they were actually paying in their total effective tax, on their income?
It's probably still like 20%.
It was, well, they were paying 42% total effective tax of their income, even though the top bracket was 91%. And here's the reason why. That only covered about 10,000 households in the United States actually qualified for that, because no one was making that much money. There just weren't that many people making that much. 10,000 households in total were making that. So their effective tax rate at that time, even when the marginal tax was at 91%, their effective tax was 42% that they paid. What do you think the effective tax is right now?
Like 45%.
It's actually gone down. It's actually 37%.
Oh, so pretty much the same.
It's right. It's 5% different, even though that top marginal tax rate is nowhere close to what it used to be at all. It literally, it doesn't change anything, because these people will find ways around counting their income, just like you said, with using capital gains taxing instead.
And they'll go to offshore accounts. They'll do all that stuff. Because when people steal from you, you find a way so they don't steal from you.
Yeah.
That
is the case.
It's not loopholes. There's no such thing as loopholes around theft.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want to be stolen from.
It's like, anymore. I got a security system. Oh, you signed up for that ADT loophole, huh?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Loophole around the burglars.
So I think this is where I had to stop and take a break for a while, because my heart started to get kind of messy, and I kind of felt like I was going to have some issues, and my blood pressure just shot up a bunch. But we'll see. I want to see what you think about this.
God, I'm going to have to get health care for you now.
As a business owner, here you go.
I want 1% more, 2% more, 3% more. You want another bite of the apple after they paid your 70 cents on the dollar. And one more thing. And then if you drop dead, then New York gets another 16%.
So what about
and the federal government gets 44%.
What about all the working people who created all the wealth? The guy who owns the factory, the guy who owns the company did not create the wealth. The people who did the work created the wealth.
Why do you feel you have a...
So all you business owners out there, you didn't create anything.
One more time, what he said was, what about all the workers, the employees, the ones who created the wealth? The guy who started the business, the business owner did not create the wealth. The people who work at the business create the wealth.
So you're telling me when Jeff Bezos was starting Amazon and he was in his house packing boxes, there were 600,000 people helping him start that?
Apparently. They created that.
No wonder he grew so fast.
The
other thing I want you to think about is, like, when you go to a new job, what's the first thing that happens?
I don't know. I walk out
for at least
normally.
A week or two.
I act like I'm going to do a good job.
No, you're in training.
Oh yeah, training. Yeah.
You're in training because you don't know what you're doing at that company.
True.
Because somebody developed policies and procedures for you to follow that makes the company successful.
This is two things, like, it's pretty easy if you want to trace this back. Like, look at all the employees at the company. They're all working. Okay, we'll trace it back before that. Maybe they had to buy some. Keep tracing it back to how it started, because they all just didn't get together and decide that they were going to pool their money together and create a business. Which, by the way, if you think that is the way things should be done, that we should have just worker-owned companies, then do it.
There's nothing stopping
Then
you.
do it. Create a Facebook group. Get 10,000 people in it. All of you pull your money together into a bank account and then try to start a business. Mm-hmm. Do it. There's no one stopping you from doing it. But here's what actually happens. Someone decides that they're going to risk a ton of money and put in like 100 hours a week in work. And then later down the road, years later, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people working at that business.
It's only if the company doesn't fail, which half of all businesses that start in America fail.
More than half. Yeah. It's
more than half?
Crazy amount of busises it's technically a
People
crazy
lose their
amount.
life savings. They take out another mortgage on their house. They take loans from friends and family. I mean, just watch Shark Tank. People like, oh, how much do you have invested in this terrible idea? Oh, 100,000.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Well,
Do that and then tell me that you didn't create that business.
right.
You know, that it's disgusting is what it is. It's purely disgusting.
That's what I always challenge people. If you think business owners are evil, then you just start a business to compete with them.
Yeah. Well, and it should be better anyway, because you're not going to be so worried about your evil shareholder profits and your profit, and you're going to pay. There's not going to be CEOs, so no one's going to be sucking out all that money, and you're not going to be gouging people. So it should be cheaper products, which means you'll overtake all of the competition out there. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have all of that evil administrative cost that all of our capitalist companies have.
Let me give you a real world example, because I truly believe as a business owner that you should take care of your employees that take care of the business, because that's how you become most successful. But you don't have to do that through government force. You understand that you have people that work for you, and you should care for people. But let me give you a real world example, because what happens is, I'm just going to tell you what's happening right now with our company, is this month of August is a tight month because there's a lot of things going on. Guess who gets paid last? Me. So guess who gets the least amount of money this month? Me. Because it's a tight month and we have a lot of expenses going out, a lot of things, which is all good. We're investing and doing all kinds of other things. But, Nate gets paid and the other people I have working for me get paid. And guess who gets paid last? Me. So I get the least amount of money ever this month.
And that's what
happens.
What Charlie did not know, that I'm actually such a great negotiator that I got him to negotiate my price up on my behalf.
Yeah.
So
it's a passive aggressive nature.
That's how you negotiate right there. For sure.
Yep.
So that you can always trace this back to who started the business, like Charlie's saying right now. And a year from now, if Charlie has got 100 employees, or Good Morning Liberty has got 100 employees, and all those employees wake up one day and say, "Hey, we created this," I'll sock them straight in the mouth. That's what I'll do. I'll hit them right in the teeth.
Yeah.
Is what's going to happen, because they weren't here for this. They were not here for when Charlie was taking it for the team. Okay.
Right.
Like that, you weren't here for that. My family's a farm family, and during the year, they're harvesting their produce all the time.
They're harvesting grapes right now.
They're harvesting grapes right now. Yeah, I just saw them talking about that. So, let's just say all the people that are doing all the picking, all the harvesting right now. Well, they're the ones that created that wealth, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones that created that money.
Surely.
What they didn't see was right around the time when I was born was my dad taking out a $500,000 loan to buy some ground. They didn't see millions and millions of dollars going into farm equipment over the years. They didn't see you front tens of thousands of dollars to buy seed and chemicals and things like that. They're not there for that.
They didn't
whatsoever.
see you out there pruning grapes.
They didn't see me out there
for nothing.
Or Charlie out there helping plant grapes.
I got paid.
Yeah.
You just.
I got paid too. He paid me most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't see that part. So for the 20 people that are working for my dad right now to go up to him and say, "Hey, we created this. You didn't create this." What the F are you talking about when you say that? You have no idea what you're talking about.
The only reason why we can't finish that word is because our moms listen to this show.
That's the only reason. That is literally the only reason.
Because that's how mad I get sometimes.
I do not think I have cursed in front of either one of my parents ever.
Ever.
Just out of respect.
I know. I have.
On
accident.
Well, actually, it's because I don't curse. and they've just seen, I don't have to hold anything back.
Well,
So
we all can't be like Jesus.
I take
like you, Nate.
I think actually my mom walked up on me tearing into someone one time. I'm pretty sure while I was I think so, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's see.
And the other thing you have to think about is like if you have a job right now, like if that business goes away, like who do you work for then?
Yeah. Like
what's it? I think the majority of Americans work for small business owners, where it's like 60-something% of people work for a small business. It's like where there's like 10 to 100 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally that's less than 50 or it's less than $250,000 is like the income or something like that. So
it's like not like most of your business owners in America aren't getting rich, let me tell you.
No, they're really not. They work for a living like that. They're making that, a business owner, your wealthy business owner is someone that can leave and everything keeps moving on its own and they keep taking the money and everything's great. That most of your business owners, if they leave the job, the business shuts down. Nothing happens after that. That's the bulk of your business owners. So a lot of people go from working for a boss that they hate and not making much money to becoming a boss that other people hate and not making very much money. That's just pretty much how it goes.
And the other thing, it's a massive risk. Like a lot of people don't start businesses because they have families to take care of. And, you're not guaranteed a paycheck when you start a business. You're just not.
No.
Like, so when you have a business, it all depends on what your income is for that month and then what can you take out, but keep the business going and keep the business growing. Because if you're not growing, then you're dying.
Yeah.
And so, I have friends that recently started a business and they talk about the fear that they had when starting this because they have kids and they're married and I have a kid, and it's like you have to put food on the table. Like you still have to survive and you're not guaranteed anything.
Yeah.
And they're taking like a tiny proportion of successful business owners.
Very small.
Very, very small number of them, and saying that, oh, well, it's not fair. It's like, well, that's not the majority of business owners.
No, well, even the normal stat is there's 28 million businesses in the U.S. I mean, the ones that trade publicly on the stock exchange, there's like 10,000 of them. There's 10,000, and half of those aren't even profitable.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very small portion. It's like 5,000 of the 28 million are like greatly successful and profitable.
Yeah.
Mate, that's still not as many, So, all right, switch gears. Charlie, can you switch to climate change for me?
Yes.
Are you ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
You ready for the Green New Deal?
Best money we could ever spend.
Sandy in New York City. Okay. Look at with $40+ billion in damage, lives, dozens of lives lost. We have to change. This is the way. Buildings are one of the biggest emitters out there. We have to do something about it. This law in New York City is the toughest in the entire world.
Give me the materials. What are the alternative
I will
materials?
happily get you a list of building materials.
You don't have the list.
But the point I'm making to you is if we do the status quo, we are endangering the future of this city and this nation.
Okay,
period.
so that means tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in additional costs to build a new building and retrofit an old building. Hang on. Those costs will be put on the residents of New York.
So you want to do nothing?
I didn't say I want to do nothing.
So wait, you're not giving me an answer.
Okay. So by the way, New York, they passed this thing. Basically, you can't build a new building using majority steel or glass.
Oh.
Yeah. You just build your building. Just don't use that. Also, we're trying to save the forest, so not many trees either. Can't really do that much. And you can't.
So what do you build it out of?
That's the thing. That's why Hannity's asking him, like, give me the materials. They have not put forth what all the materials are going to be.
Were you ever in like one of those math leagues where you do some engineering and stuff
like the Olympiads?
Yeah,
love those things.
Yeah, you remember like building a spaghetti bridge?
So I don't know if I did the spaghetti bridge, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah. So that's what our bridges should be made out of now. Spaghetti.
Yeah, we just need to Olympiad that.
Right, exactly. You just have to engineer it properly, and then you're good to go. Who wouldn't want to drive over spaghetti?
Do you remember what they were estimating the cost of the Green New Deal to be? Like,
no, like 100 trillion over 10 years or something like
92 trillion.
92 trillion.
Yeah, $92 trillion
over 10 years.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
over 10 years.
9.2 trillion a year.
Yeah. Well, it's just 3 times the amount of money that we're currently taking in taxes.
What is it if you tax everyone in America at 100%? you would get what, 5-6 trillion?
I don't know what the total GDP is. I'm gonna blank on that right now. It's in the teens of trillions, and then they're taking in like 3.5 off of the actual stuff. But I don't know what the actual number is. Yeah. Sorry. The Green New Deal, which was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, came out after being in Congress for like 3 days, came out and said that she wanted to drastically change everything because of climate change.
And the world's going to end in 12 years.
12 years is the new official number. So,
well, I guess less than that now because that was announced like 6 months ago.
The good thing is all you got to do is elect the right president and the world will be saved.
Right.
That's all you got to do. That'll take care of it. But I wanted to talk about some of these crazy, catastrophic weather events that we've been having. And they're due to climate change, by the way.
These weather events, they're not mistakes, Sean.
Okay.
This stuff, this flooding, the wildfires, it's happening because of global warming. We can't go on this way.
In the 70s, you can look at Time magazine and it said...
So, these weather events, this flooding, these wildfires, the hurricanes, they're happening because of global warming.
Yeah.
Do you know, I did some research earlier, I searched the biggest hurricanes on record. Do you know what number one is?
It was like 1907, something like that.
It's the Galveston hurricane in 1900.
1900, yep.
Was the year that happened. Now, the thing I would have to ask is, actually, we'll look at number two. Do you know what number two was?
I don't.
This is a Florida hurricane that in parentheses is Lake, what is that, Okeechobee? That was in 1928. So, and then also, of the 10 hottest years on record, 2 of them were 1921 and 1934. Now, the rest of them were like in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
But what happened in 1921 that made it hottest year on record at that point in time?
What happened between 1900 and 2000, or no, 1900 and 1930?
Yeah.
Because that 30 years there seems to be another span of global warming somehow.
I guess so. This is the crazy thing, like the biggest hurricane ever on record. We'll go over the on record quotations right there, and how long that record is. But the biggest hurricane ever on record was in the year 1900. Well, how can you blame hurricanes that happen right now on global warming?
Right.
They're not even the biggest hurricanes on record.
Well, there's just more of them, Nate, obviously.
I guess so.
Way more spinning up.
I guess so. It's common sense. And it drives me nuts when people just are spouting irrational, nonsensical, illogical things over and over again. Because if you tell a lie enough times, eventually people will start to believe it, and they know that. Right. Is the problem.
What's funny is that the UN has done a couple studies on this. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this. As societies get richer, they start to care more about the environment. And what we've seen over the years is that we really don't need government mandates. I think Kroger has decided to stop producing plastic bags, right?
Yep.
All on their own. We don't need government to come in and save us. Like, as human beings, we have always figured out. I mean, we've lasted this long.
Yeah.
We've always figured out a way to stave off, let's say, the catastrophe, even though we almost created our own.
Yeah.
In the Cold War.
Yeah.
with launching nukes. But, we've had massive volcano eruptions that have created nuclear type winters. We've had all of these natural things that happen way back in the day. We know for a fact that the Earth has been way hotter than it is today.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I do think that, as Elon Musk put it, there's something to be said about taking carbon out of the ground and putting it in the air.
Yeah. Can't be a good thing.
No.
I agree with that.
At what degree is it actually causing harm to the environment, and how long do we actually have? And the problem with these the global warming or the climate change models is that as you go out like 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years, it just keeps getting like the errors keep building. And so there's no way to actually predict what's going to happen. And we have no idea how much we're causing damage. But as I said before, the richer a society gets, the more they start to care. Like, I appreciate that, although it's annoying, I would say, to have to get your emissions checked, it's nice to drive through Nashville and not like have smog, Like, it's not good to breathe that stuff in. You look at other like third world countries like China and stuff. Well, not third world, but
Yeah.
you know, if you go to other places that have a lot of smog, like it smells bad, you know,
It's not good.
and you can't see as well. So those types of things I would say like aren't good, but as the society gets richer, like America has, like we've taken care of some of those things, some by regulation and some by people inventing new ways to do things.
Well, and that's kind of the other point I wanted to bring up is you always have to ask yourself who's better suited to take care of this problem? You know, what does the government normally do a good job at? Are they the most efficient? Are they the most effective at doing things? Because you also have people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, people like that they make a lot of money and then they decide that they're going to do things to help. Or like you look in the case of Elon Musk and look at Tesla. Like his mission is to make electric cars like the thing. And the way that he wanted to do that was there was this stigma attached to electric cars that they're just little wimpy cars that, you know, didn't have any power and they couldn't do anything like that. He created an electric car that at one point in time had to do a software update to reduce its torque because it had too much. So he went out there and produced an electric car that everyone knows is insanely fast. And so he's out there inventing these amazing electric cars, this new technology, and then he's driving a market where other people are trying to compete with him now. And that's a good thing. You got BMW putting out those kind of cars and Mercedes and all these people putting out really powerful electric cars.
Have you seen that Tesla truck, man?
Oh, yeah, I have seen that.
So sweet.
I love what he said about the Tesla Semi, was that he wanted the Tesla Semi was strong enough that it could do a tug of war with a normal semi and it would pull the normal semi up a hill. Like that's his vision with the Tesla Semi. It's always amazing. It's always about having tons of power because the biggest knock he thinks on the electric vehicles is that they don't have any power, and we got to have that power.
I think the best example is SpaceX.
Yeah.
Like SpaceX has made NASA look retarded.
Yeah. Actual mental retardation.
And you know what's crazy is the profit motive has what would you say has generated this need for efficiency. Like, no one ever had the idea of flying rockets back to the Earth and reusing them until Elon Musk said, or at least the people that work for him were like, man, we could save, $20 million. That's a lot of money. We could save that if we just maybe spend $5 million to figure out how to land these back and reuse them.
Yeah.
No one's ever thought of that in the history of NASA, which has been around since the 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
I think the 50s.
Yeah.
And no one's ever thought about that the longest time. And then NASA has this program that's trying to get us back to the moon, but they're like $1 billion over budget. Yeah.
Years.
And now they're thinking about contracting SpaceX or Blue Origin out to do it because they can't figure it out. It's unbelievable. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's the best example of how the private market can even do the craziest things we've ever done as human beings 1,000 times better than government ever could.
Yeah. And a couple things on that on the obviously flying the rockets back to the launch pad that's such an amazing idea. It's an environmentally friendly idea. It's an efficient idea. What I always say after that is the coolest part was they didn't just stop at flying the rockets back to the launch pad. They were like, where we could save even more money?
Save massive fuel costs.
We'll save so much in fuel because the Earth spins and the rocket goes up at an arc. Why don't we just put a boat out in the ocean so the rocket can just go straight back down to the boat instead of having to fly all the way back to the launch pad? We could save the boat fuel is way cheaper than the rocket fuel. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just put a boat out there and invent this drone boat? And man, it has a hilarious name. I can't remember the name of the drone boat. We'll put this boat out there that the rocket can come straight down and land on to save a little bit more money.
Like as it's moving.
Yeah. And so do you know, SpaceX charges $60 million to send a satellite in the space. Do you know what it cost for NASA to do it?
I'd say probably $200 million.
$660 million.
Oh, jeez.
For NASA to do it. And they weren't flying the rockets back to the launch pad or onto a cool boat out in the ocean. Mm-hmm. $660 million. Now, maybe that's just outside of your world and you don't pun. Maybe that's just outside of your wheelhouse and you just don't care about that because that's satellites. Okay, well, do you use your phone? Do you ever use a GPS before? Do you interact with anything that uses communication systems ever?
Google.
Okay, well, then you should care how much it costs to put a satellite in the space. And it's 10% of the cost that it used to be because we let a private company do it. So back we're on the environment thing now. So that's environmentally friendly. Jeff Bezos has came out and said that his goal from his winnings with Amazon, that's what he called it, just a step. He's got a 200-year time horizon that he thinks on. That's how he thinks. And his goal is to make it eventually where Earth is just a residential, just zoned residential planet, and that we harvest energy from out in space, that we put massive solar panels, these massive cells out in space, gathering solar energy and then bringing it back to Earth to use for energy. So you have these guys that are thinking up stuff like things that could actually change everything. And they're just evil, greedy capitalists that are out there,
Bill Gates is trying to get rid of malaria.
Yeah, he's
in
curing
Africa.
diseases.
How crazy is that?
Man, what a terrible person.
Yeah.
Crazy. So on the time horizon, I mentioned we talk about how many years on record. Well, we've been measuring accurately since the year 1895.
For temperatures?
For temperature, and they were measuring the wind speeds on the hurricanes, too. So, no, wait, that was actually in the mid-1900s. It was 1895 for the temperatures, yeah. So, anyway, that's 124 years. 124 years.
Yeah, it's good math.
How long will the bulk of scientists say Earth has been here?
About 3.2 billion years.
So 4.54 billion years.
Oh, it's up 4.54.
That's what I found. So 4.54 billion years of time that Earth has been whirling around the sun.
Back when it was just a little infant.
And we've measured accurately 124 years. That is in fact 0.00002% of the amount of time that Earth has been here.
That we know about.
That's how long they've been accurately measuring temperatures. 0.00002%. So I went ahead and put this in something you could kind of imagine too. Let's look at it in let's put it in the feet. We're going to put it in the feet. 124 versus 4.54 billion in feet. 124 feet is going to get you about right out to the road that's in front of your house. That's where it's going to put you. 4.54 billion is going to take you to the moon and back 4 times.
4 times?
4 times. Yeah.
Can you walk?
I guess you can if you want to.
Yeah.
I think if you get halfway there, I think the moon does the rest. I'm pretty sure. But so that's the that's if you want to look at your years and some kind of a physical thing. We've measured out to the road in front of your house. That's what we've measured. But in time that's actually happened, it goes all the way to the moon and back 4 times. Now, how can you look at those years and tell me that what's happening right now is obviously a product of climate change, that we have the worst weather, we got the worst wildfires we've ever had, the worst hurricanes we've ever had, hottest years ever on record. How can an honest scientist look at 124 years worth of data and then say that they can give an accurate representation that they know for a fact that this is the worst wildfire that's ever happened or the hottest year ever on record? How?
Well, what's crazy about forest fires is they're actually necessary.
They are. What's also necessary is that you don't build your house in the middle of a forest.
Yeah.
Like that's the unnatural part.
Right.
Sorry, not to be, insensitive. But
right.
Don't build your house next to the ocean. You're not supposed to do that.
Right.
That it goes up and down. Bad weather happens around there.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Or don't build it below sea level.
Yeah. Don't build an entire city below sea level.
Yeah. New Orleans.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's a stupid idea.
Yet we keep bailing them out over and over and over and over and over again.
Well, what's his name? John Stossel had a story, and this was in Basic Economics also. I have to mention that in the contract. It stipulates that I mention basic economics in every podcast. So, so in that he talks about John Stossel building his house next to the ocean. John Stossel's dad told him, "Don't build your house next to the ocean; it's going to get flooded." And he said, "I don't care if I build next to the ocean. Like the government's just going to build me a new one, you know."
Yeah.
And so what happened was it did get flooded, and they did build him a new house. You know what happened after that?
Got flooded.
It got flooded again. And then they built him a new house.
Yeah.
So this idea that these places are dangerous and this is climate change and we have to stop it, it's actually really stupid to go build your house in a terrible location, like in the middle of, right next to an ocean where there are hurricanes.
Right.
Things like that, underneath sea level.
You can't really escape anything, though. I mean, wherever you go.
Be a tornado here, something like that.
There's tornadoes in the
Yeah.
Midwest. We live on a fault line. We haven't had a major earthquake in a while, but I think one of the biggest earthquakes, the Mississippi flowed backwards, by the way.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest rivers in the United States. I think it is the biggest river, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It flowed backwards for a few years. Like it went north.
That's weird. That's
because
weird
of a
to think about.
massive earthquake it was the early 1900s, I think, too. In California, you're on a fault line there, the desert, whatever. You've got, I think, flooding monsoons that happen there sometimes, too. You've got, it doesn't matter where you live. In the north, you got -40 temperatures. Like, that's the thing. Mother Nature's here to take you out. Let me tell you.
True.
There's all kinds of crazy phenomenons that happen that you can't really predict. And it doesn't matter where you live. There's always going to be something. And that's what insurance is for, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
It's in case.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Chris Rock would tell you.
Yeah.
So what would you do about climate change then? Charlie, I just hear you naysaying a whole bunch. I mean, you haven't introduced one single plan. You don't care the best option is just to do nothing?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think that is the best option. I think, again, you do what you can to make sure that your family thrives.
Yeah.
And then if you have anything left over after that, then you do your part to care for the environment. Because, we all do live here. So I think we've got some sort of obligation. Like if your everyday life is like we haven't eaten in a week and we kind of need to eat, well, then you're not going to care much about the environment.
Yeah, not at all.
You're going to be like, oh, we need to eat. Because if you die, then you can't care about the environment anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to, you like most, and in fact, I think this is 100% accurate. All dead people don't do anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Right. 100% of dead people cannot care about the environment.
Yeah, and most people are dead.
Yeah.
Like a lot, the bulk of them,
right.
Actually. So
if you're alive and you have plenty to eat and you've got enough left over or whatever, then I think that you should do something to, like, maybe you turn your lights off in your house when you're not in a room, like that's a simple thing that you can do. But if everybody did that, well, we would burn less coal, let's say.
Yeah.
Or if you're wildly successful, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, then you can come up with new and inventive ways to make alternative energy, let's say, cheaper for everyone else.
That's what I think.
That's exactly what Musk is doing.
That's what I think is going to fix the problem. Maybe it sounds like something I would say, but free market capitalism can fix this problem because we have
cheaper, faster, and better.
We have the cheaper, faster, and better we get, the more solutions we're going to come up with. And the more prosperity there is around the world, Charlie mentioned this earlier, the more prosperity there is around the world. You think, how many people out of every million or every billion end up being Elon Musk or end up being Jeff Bezos?
Not very many.
Not very many. So one thing I see Elon Musk is working on, and I think Bezos too, but they're working on getting internet around the entire world. They're sending up he sent up like 30 something satellites at one time to try and get broadband internet to the entire world. And I almost think is him being his worldview that he is, and the very smart person that he is you're searching for more people like him, more people like Bezos. And the more prosperity you bring to the world, which is what capitalism has been doing, then the more people you will have that can get information from the internet, that can go to school, can not have to worry about how they're going to eat every day. Like Charlie was saying, they can start to ponder other things during the day. And eventually, maybe you'll find 3 or 4 more Jeff Bezoses or Elon Musks in Africa.
This is how evolution works.
Yeah, you'll find some more. You'll find some more of those people, and they'll come up with more, even better things than what they're coming up with. And the cheaper and faster and better that we make everything, the more things we'll come up with. Allow capitalism to make solar energy cheap enough that people will want to use it. It's already a cool idea. You just put panels on your house, and you get to use your own electricity. It's a great idea.
This reminds me of Thomas Massey did a YouTube video, a guy who has a degree from MIT, really, really smart, probably as smart as, Musk and those types of guys. He's a congressman for Kentucky, and he converted his house over to a Tesla battery-powered house. So he went and he was running acid batteries, and I think he pays $4 a month for electricity because everything's battery-powered essentially. And I think Thomas Massey has 15 or 16 patents or something like that. He's an inventor as well.
I think it's 60 or 70.
60 or 70, yeah.
It's a lot.
Really smart guy. Obviously, MIT is not it's pretty hard to get in there. But what he did is he went and found an old wrecked Tesla and bought the battery from it for $10,000 or something like that, and then literally wired his house up to the Tesla battery to be more efficient. And
nice.
Almost doesn't have an electric bill. So he's doing his part, let's say, in converting most of his house over to let's say solar type of energy that's stored in a Tesla battery, and to where his house is not burning as much coal.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
People are working on a solution for this. That's the moral of the story. People are coming up with it. Even Musk, I keep mentioning, he's got Solar Roof. He's got a company. Instead of buying, your normal shingles that you see on top of your house, they're like solar panels that are used instead of, that just cover your entire roof. Mm-hmm. So amazing. I mean, because you already spend $10,000 on your roof anyway,
right?
So you might as well spend. It's going to be a lot more than that, but hey, you might as well have solar panels and be taking care of that. So
here's the other cool thing I want people to think about. You mentioned that we've only been accurately, taking the temperature for 124 years. Well, in all of human history, capitalism has only existed for about 230 something years, technically, as a society type of thing. And to think about how far we have come. If you think about all of human history, which is a few 100,000 years, we used to live in trees, and we didn't really have houses or anything like that. And then there was feudalism period, and there was such slow growth. And then all of a sudden, we had this idea that people were intrinsically valuable, they had intrinsic value, and that they are made in the image of God, let's say. And then from there, we decided that they could have property rights. And in America, you were to take care of yourself and your family. And because they tried the whole commune thing, we talked about that a couple of years ago, the whole pilgrimage story. But you give people a purpose and a meaning for their life to take care of themselves and their family. And in 230 something years, we've created the greatest society human beings have ever seen, ever.
Yeah.
In such a short period of time. Why would we not look at the historical data of that and say, while capitalism isn't perfect and there are a few people that can take advantage and be greedy, look at what it's done for the most amount of people in human history.
Yeah.
It's you can't even hold a candle.
No
other system can even come close to the level of life that humans are afforded because of capitalistic endeavors.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
No, you can't even. I mean, if you put it on a line on a graph and you measured technological advances, stuff like that, it would just be a flat line for 300,000 years. It would basically look a horse pulled a wagon that had wheels on it. And it's like that. It just looked like that. That was technology. That was it. That was all we had. And then all of a sudden, it spiked all the way up to, okay, are we going to get to Mars in 2022?
Right.
You know, like in just a very small amount of time. And you have to look at what was the change in that time. Well, like Charlie said, humans became intrinsically valuable. We gained the right to create and to trade value with one another and to mutually benefit from that transaction to get something that we deemed more valuable than what we had, which is what capitalism is. And in that time, we went from, okay, well, you got your horse and it takes you weeks to get over the country and, you know, you might die on the way there, to all of a sudden, gosh, dang it, my round trip flight is $300. Come on.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. You know?
We can actually fly.
We can fly.
Yeah.
We can fly.
Last time I checked, horses can't. Unicorns can, but I don't think they exist.
Not
actually.
anymore.
Yeah.
They're just back in the old days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Volcano must have taken them out with the dinosaurs.
Well, de Blasio obviously thinks that the government should be here to take care of everything for you. This includes making sure that you maintain your weight, stay healthy, you know? Can't have those big gulps in New York anymore. Can't have salt on the table. We'll see what we think about that.
So insane.
It's crazy.
This is
Well,
insane.
why did Mayor Bloomberg take away salt shakers from the tables? I'm a big guy. I'm a smart guy. I'd like to make that decision on my own. I don't drink big gulps, but don't you think people should have the choice if they want to drink them to drink them?
I actually believe in freedom, but I think there are some very...
Thank you.
I want you to know...
You don't want big gulps.
No, listen. But there are some very common sense things we do. No, listen. You don't make it easy for a kid to drink a huge amount of soda. They want to buy soda, they can buy soda, but they don't buy the amount of soda that's going to keep making them obese. This just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Mayor, I ran...
So, well, like on, you know, on the, as far as like the issue, I agree. Like, okay, well, you probably shouldn't let a kid drink an insane amount of soda and become obese and do all that. But whose freaking job is that to take care of that?
You know, I have a funny video from last night, actually, where my son asked me for another cookie. He had already gotten 2. He had 2 cookies after dinner time, which my son's not a great eater anyway. He had 2 cookies, and he came to me, and he said, "Cookie, please," and I told him no. And he legitimately threw a fit. And my son's a pretty good kid. He doesn't really throw fits, but he's 2. Like, they throw fits. And he acted like it was the end of the world because I wouldn't let him have another Oreo. So I bought like this big package. This, like, there's probably, what's in a package of Oreos?
I don't know.
40, 50 cookies.
At least.
So there's 40, 50 of them right there. And I only let him have 2.
Yeah.
I think I had like 4 or 5, but I'm a bigger guy. I
Yeah.
didn't eat 50 of them because you should have some self-control.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's a good thing that Nashville passed that 2 Oreo maximum law.
Otherwise, I would have never known.
That way, you know, you didn't give him more than 2, you know? This is the crazy part. Like, whose job is this to take care of the kids? This goes on to like all of the other issues that we have in society. That's why I brought this clip in here, because it's not really just about big gulps and salt in New York. It's like the bigger mentality. Whose job is it to make sure that people are making the right decisions and that children are being raised properly or that they're not becoming obese? You know, whose job is it? The government? Who the heck's going to be in control of the government tomorrow? You don't know. How can you tell me that this is the government's job when you don't even know who's in control of the government from year to year? It can't be their job.
It's not that obesity isn't a problem, because it is. We actually have I said this the other day, we have more of an obesity problem in America than we do people starving to death.
Yeah.
So obesity is a problem. But here's the entire left's mantra, everything that they talk about, because we got free healthcare, free education. We're going to take away, your plastic bags, and we're going to take away salt shakers and your big gulp sodas. I think, didn't Pennsylvania or Philadelphia pass a sugar tax? to try to keep people from drinking heavily sugared sodas, which you shouldn't do, by the way. Like, it's not good for your health. You shouldn't be obese.
Yeah.
But here's what the entire left is saying. Here's all of the problems that we have. Give us all of the responsibility and we'll take care of you. Which is an easy message to sell. It's like, hey, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
We're going to do everything for you. And somehow that makes a better society. What we've seen throughout history is that the only way to create a functioning, successful society is you have to take that responsibility onto yourself. Because you know what? Like, there are times I work out, and there are times where I would like a delicious big gulp soda, and I don't want to buy 3 cans so I can have my big gulp. I want to have one big one. Like, I went to Sonic last night, and I got the Route 44.
So big.
With a lot of ice.
Yeah.
And I didn't even finish it, but I wanted that. And so the ice is delicious, and I had a big cup of ice and soda. And you know what? I worked out hard yesterday, so I felt like I deserved it. Why can't I do that?
I don't know.
Thank God I live in Tennessee and not New York.
If you're thinking like, if you're someone on the left and you're listening right now, first off, good job. Way to be open. If you're someone on the left and you're listening right now, just thinking on a purely evolutionary scale for a species, which one has the best chance of furthering the species? That human beings learn that they need to act responsibly and take care of themselves and make sure that they make the right decisions, or that human beings have no responsibility and whoever is in control of whatever's inside of the border that they live in, whoever's in control gets to make the decisions, and the actual human beings themselves never have to consider any kind of decision making whatsoever. Like, if you look thousands of years down the road, which one of those societies, which one of those species are going to be in better shape? You know, I'm not talking better shape physically. I'm saying, like, which one of them are still going to be alive? Because you can't just say, hey, you don't ever have to make any decisions. We're going to make them for you. And then that just keeps going generation after generation after generation. You know, now the kids, we'll just say if you're in New York, you're growing up, there's no big gulps, there's no salt on the table, but you never learn why. You never learn the why behind that. You just learn, it's not there. I'm not allowed to do it. So you never really learn the principle behind why you're not, which is the important part, by the way. You shouldn't drink a big gulp because it's got too many calories in it. And if you want to lose weight, you need to consume less calories than what you burn in a day.
I don't even like really the lose weight part if you want to be healthy.
Yeah, just be healthy.
Right.
If you want to maintain, you need to have somewhere around the same amount of calories that you're burning every day. They can fluctuate up or down, whichever one. But there's like a principle behind this. But they're not learning that at all. They're just learning, okay, government law stipulates that I cannot have a big gulp when I'm in New York. And then what happens is they grow up and they have kids. And they never have to learn why any of this stuff. And what happens when the governments change hands back and forth between different political parties, back and forth over hundreds of years? You know, you're going to end up having generations of people that maybe one day down the road are going to be given complete freedom and not know what the heck to do with it at all. They're just going to destroy themselves because they never had to actually learn why, ever. They never had to learn why because the government was just there to make that decision for them all the time. And that is not safe. It's scary that the responsibility should be on you. That's scary. It's risky sometimes. It means you got to make good decisions. And you're probably not very good at doing that. I'm not very good at doing that.
A lot of times I'm not either.
It's not like I'm sitting here talking from some perfect standpoint, like I'm perfectly responsible all the time. I'm just like everyone else, only I don't sit around and blame other people for all my problems. When I mess something up, it's because I messed something up. That's why. You got to learn from it.
Even if you don't.
Even if I don't mess something up, I still say, well, what could I have done differently in that point in time?
Right.
That's your only option. That is the only option that means you could be in control of something being better.
Or blame everyone else and live a miserable life.
Yeah, just be mad all the time. Just hate everyone. You're in a bad situation and just be angry and put that out there in the world.
It's not fair.
It's just not fair. All these people are taking advantage of you, you know? Just see how that does for the world when there's that much anger all the time.
And this is honestly the biggest thing that grinds my gears is that people constantly choose feelings over facts, logic, and data. Mm-hmm. If you look throughout history, well, one, if you just look at history, and look at the data and the facts that come from it. Two, you look at any time the government has ever banned anything. Like, I guarantee you there's going to be a big gulp in a salt shaker black market now. It's going to be more expensive to get your salt in a restaurant because the server will have to slide it to you like sleight of hand. You'll have to get some extra cash for it. And here's a little bump of salt for you, my friend. This ought to get your blood pressure going. You're going to feel a little flushed.
Oh, man.
But essentially, if you look at when government banned alcohol, what happened? Well, people just kept drinking alcohol. You look at when government banned drugs. Well, look at what's happened. You know, drugs are still being used. They're in schools. They make it into prison of all places. You know, murder's illegal still, and people murder people. I was in an argument the other day with a guy who was saying there was this meme that was posted. It's like that America has had a drug war for 47 years, and you can't keep drugs off the street. They can't keep drugs out of schools, and they can't keep drugs out of prison. Yet you expect me to give up my guns in a gun ban, and you're going to somehow keep criminals from getting guns. And it's like, well, this has no logic unless you think drugs should be legal. And I'm like, wait,
it's not what you're talking about there
there's
at all.
Plenty of logic there. So what we're saying is that government is not competent enough to ban anything and keep people from doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen. All you do is create violence in a black market. That's all you do.
Yeah.
And so if you look at, let's take drugs, for example, really quickly. In places like, I believe it was Portugal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Portugal decriminalized all drugs, all of them. Heroin, meth, all these bad drugs that you shouldn't be using, by the way. It's not good for a meaningful and purpose-driven life.
Can you do sodium there?
I think so. What they've done is they've decriminalized all of them, which has drastically reduced their violence. It's drastically reduced their overdoses, and they're actually saving people's lives. And they set up centers where people can actually use illicit drugs responsibly, where they can save their lives and hopefully wean them off and rehab them to where they become productive citizens again. And if you look at just the numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but God, just go look it up for a second. We've had this illegal drug war, and a lot of countries have had this, right? And it creates all this violence. It creates a black market. People still use it. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. If you look at a country that had a really bad drug problem, they ended up decriminalizing all drugs, and now the numbers are astronomically different. The data is clear. So it's Republicans and Democrats, because Republicans are more about the drug war than the liberals are. But each side, you have to stop thinking with emotions. And I know that's hard to do. God, it's ridiculously hard to do, because when something in life happens or you think about something, your first reaction is emotion. Your brain just explodes with, like Nate and I were listening to this stuff earlier, and it's just like immediately you have this emotional reaction of anger. But if you take a step back to think about things, look at things logically, look at data, look at the research, and see what's actually happening, and you follow that logic to its conclusion, we can create better things. And so government banning these types of things isn't going to save anyone. It just creates a black market and makes things worse. That's all it does.
I was looking at drug-induced deaths of people age 15 to 64 per million population. You know who number 2, as far as least amount of drug-induced deaths, who number 2 is?
I don't know, Portugal?
Portugal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Who's beating them?
Let's see. Romania. I don't know. A lot of responsible people there, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. This one only shows the top 20, and the United States is not even in the top 20 as far as least amount. So
I wonder,
that's not good.
and I wonder what Portugal was like 10 years ago, because they did this, I think, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were probably way high up there. I know they were, because like I've looked at the data before. And again, I don't have it in front of me. I didn't plan on talking about that, but it's funny if you actually look at not the intention of policy. If you look at the actual results and the data of policy, then you can see the benefits.
Yeah.
It's just like capitalism versus any other system. Sure, capitalism sucks. It's just way better than any other system we could devise. And if you can come up with something better, democratic socialism isn't it, by the way. But if you can come up with a better system, then I'm all ears. But there isn't one.
Not
There
yet.
isn't one.
Not that we know of.
No.
Nope. One more.
Unless we find angels or something. I don't know.
We'll keep looking. We'll keep looking for them. One more. This is kind of maybe a little bit more lighter, kind of funnier note here. But one of the more funny, hypocritical things as far as the leftist ideology, and it's completely which most ideologies have hypocritical things in their nature. You know, they definitely do. So I'm picking on leftist right now for sure. But listen to this. See if you can pinpoint what I picked out here.
No, they pick my diet over yours.
So you want to get them to have a healthier diet. There's a lot, but I really emphasize.
But you know they would pick
young,
my diet over yours.
Reaching kids young with these kind of things helps a lot.
But you know they pick my diet over yours.
So you want a bunch of kids deciding the fate of their diet.
I would listen to.
So they're arguing back and forth because they've got a new meatless Mondays things.
I know where you're going with this.
So he says that they've got to reach them young, and they've got to make sure that they have better health. And Hannity's saying, you know, they would pick my diet plan over yours. And he responds with, so you want kids to be in charge of their own fate and their diets? Like,
I know where you're going with this. Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
They can choose their gender.
Yeah, they can choose their gender when they're 3 years old.
3 years old, but they can't decide what they want to eat.
So he sits there like laughing with a smirk on his face about, so you want kids to be in control of their diets?
It's just, there's no there's no logic. It doesn't matter.
There's no consistent principle ever.
No, it doesn't matter to the left.
Everything, it's complete. You know, if libertarianism is objectivism, then the leftist side is subjectivism.
Yes.
Meaning there is no principle. It's every situation is different all the time, and it's whatever you feel like at
In that moment.
I feel like we should control kids' diets so they'll be healthier. You don't want them in charge of what their diets are going to be. Come on, that's ridiculous. But sure, they can pick their gender when they're 3 years old. Sure.
I'm going to find this video that we have to play.
Okay.
It is a video that it's some kind of like, I think, democratic socialist type of social justice warrior meeting that was going on.
Well, I don't like any of those words.
And it's just absolutely hilarious how this meeting went, because you'll just have to hear it, because it's what they do is they start off the meeting by saying that people are like triggered by certain sounds and stuff like that. So please be quiet. Like, don't clap, raise your hands, because some people are sensitive to clapping, and they're trying to create this perfect environment where they don't offend anyone or do anything. So, it's the Democratic Socialist. So I don't know how long it is. I think it's like 3 or 4 minutes long, but this is basically a Democratic Socialist meeting where they're trying to pander to everybody's sensitivity. It's hilarious.
First of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
Quick point of privilege once again. Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely isn't just for, like, you know, let's keep things civil or whatever. It's so that people aren't going to get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate. Like,
I see that no one's clapping for me. It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important.
He's raising
because
his
those
hands.
loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these. We have a lot of disabled comrades, and a lot of those are invisible disabilities. You don't know who it is that is having a more difficult time navigating this space, and this space was not created with all of their needs in mind. So it's up to us to modify that space to make sure that everybody is able to move in the ways that they need to move. And additionally, with the noise issue, like, avoid hissing, avoid waving banners, right? Because there's all sorts of things. If you don't know what to do, show up these, right? I'm sure there's lots of ways that we can communicate to each other without needing to rely on something that's going to hurt somebody else. We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? Please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? We don't want to put people in stressful situations that they don't consent to, right? And there are right-wing infiltrators who are trying to get in here, but it's going to be really traumatic for people if we're not making an affirmative effort to de-escalate each other and de-escalate ourselves, right? Take a deep breath. And feel better before you say anything. Don't really talk to anybody who doesn't have a credential, especially if you claim to be from the press. You have no idea who that person is. Please do not talk to anybody who identifies themselves as a member of the press without having credentials. Don't talk to cops. Don't talk to MAGA assholes. We're almost there. But thank you. We are going to be visited tomorrow by some MAGA protesters. Is there anybody here who's done abortion clinic escort work? By all means, don't talk to cops if there are cops there for any reason at all, right? And if you do see someone talking to cops, let the marshals know. We are safe and we are strong because there's power in collective work.
We are safe and strong because there's power in collective work. A couple of my, probably the most favorite was the quiet rooms.
Yeah.
Please do not go in there with anything that might offend someone, like an aggressive scent.
Aggressive scents.
Like, this is just an example of how, like, extreme it gets, where there's no cohesive logic. It's like everyone's feelings and what they feel in that moment, and you can't offend anybody, and like the wooing offends somebody. I mean, that guy he yelled at everybody saying that this is triggering my anxiety, all the hissing and chatter. It's like, my God, like, what about their freedom to express themselves the way that they want?
What if I'm triggered by idiots using the microphone?
Right.
You know?
What if I don't even like microphones because it's too loud?
Exactly.
There's no way.
I didn't see anyone doing sign language next to the stage, by the way.
I know. That's very offensive.
That's very offensive.
I can't believe that they would. What about people that are actually deaf attending that?
I know. They're only catering to the blind at this event.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
I saw that the other day and I could not stop laughing. It's just, that's where they want to lead us, by the way. That's democratic socialism.
Yep. That's the thing.
That's how we all become safe with the collective thought.
When you take all that into account, every single little thing, then eventually you just can't do anything. You can't move.
No.
You can't talk. You can't move. You can't clap.
Can't build a house.
You can't use cologne.
Can't drive.
You can't do anything, which I'm okay with the cologne thing if, like, it means people can't use Brute. You know? That's fine.
So you're fine with the government banning Brute?
You know what? I don't normally sign up for stuff like that, but red flag Brute laws,
are you getting,
I think, are totally
signatures
fine.
for this?
Yeah, gathering change.org. Yeah, we'll go in there to outlaw Brute. Do you remember we used to have our little Brute fights?
Oh, God.
It used to be a thing in our band, one of our previous bands that Charlie and I were in together, that it was just like this ongoing joke that when someone wasn't, when they would least expect it, you would start showering them with brute.
Chase each other down.
Chase each other around with it, and trying to get it all over them. And it just became a joke for years, like that. Kind of everyone, you just keep a little bottle of brute with you all the time. That way you could eventually get someone at some point in time and spray brute all over them.
It's pretty funny.
Hilarious.
No offense to the people out there that use brute.
Yeah, and we're sorry if that word offends you. Also, I shouldn't even brought it up. Actually,
right.
Should have a disclaimer before that.
You should.
So, but I think that's all the clips I had. That's all the clips I have for today.
We even threw in an extra one.
Bonus
at the end
clip. That's for free.
Just for your listening pleasure.
Yeah. So you should hit subscribe because that means you can hear tomorrow's episode. You don't even have to remember it.
Why do you keep hammering that home?
Because here's the important part. The reason I hammer the subscriptions home is that, for one thing, everyone's busy. Like, I'm busy. There's a lot of podcasts that I like. There's a lot of things I like. There's also about a million other things that I do throughout the day. And it's nice to just have that little thing pop up saying, oh, here's the new episode right here. You don't have to listen to it right then.
No.
But so the reason that this is so important is that all these things that we're talking about, we talked about Blasio today, but I'm not really even talking about Blasio because I don't take him seriously, but his ideas represent a massive portion of the population. So the reason that we try to get people to hit subscribe is that the more plays, the more downloads we get, the more money this is evil capitalistic endeavor right here, but the more money we'd be able to take in ad revenue. And the good part about that is the more ad revenue we would take in, the more we would be able to run ads to bring more people to the program. It would just kind of snowball on its own.
Not only that, but invest in liberty organizations like Young Americans for Liberty that we do. We invest in those guys. Yeah.
Look up yaliberty.org. They're doing great work. And if you care about these things, first off, hitting subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money or anything. You're just doing a little thing. We'll get the download whenever we release a new episode. All of our subscribers already get counted as a download at that point in time. So it's really important if you care about this message to do that, because you need more people like us. You need to start your own podcast and your own website also if you've got some of these ideas. We need more people like us out there talking about this. And when you do find someone that talks about these things, support them in any way that you can. Right now, we're asking subscribe. You go to goodmorningliberty.us/shop, and we've got, 10 different T-shirt designs on there now? BernieLies.com, Taxation is Theft, Shall Not Be Infringed, all these different T-shirts, and you can actually support that way. But if a good way to support for free is just to hit subscribe.
And what all this does is it goes to defeating the message of tyranny.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Because we're in the realm of ideas here. And the only way to do that is to, one, keep talking about the message of liberty and get more people involved. And then two, support organizations like Young Americans for Liberty that are actually what they describe as building the bench of getting real liberty people elected into office that can actually affect change. And so that's the whole goal here is we legitimately believe in creating a better life for everyone. And we're asking that voluntarily. We're not forcing anybody to give anything to us.
And Charlie said the realm of ideas. One important thing to remember is that in the realm of ideas, we're right. We're right about this. You know how I know we're right? You can boil it down. You can boil it way down to simplest terms.
Because of the haters, man.
Because of the haters.
Because we got haters.
You can boil it all the way down to the simplest terms. Look at the different ideologies. Look at the socialist or communist or whatever leftist ideology. Their ideology is that they should have control over your life, that they should be able to tell you what to do and not to do, even if you're not harming other people, that they should be able to take your money and decide what it's going to be spent on, that they should be the ones to protect you. You shouldn't be able to protect yourselves. Our ideology says that people should leave you alone, and if you're not hurting people and you're not taking their stuff, then no one should have any other power over you other than that. Maybe you hurt someone. Okay, then there's a judicial system and things like that. Our ideology says that you should have your own liberty to live your life in the way that you see fit, and that we shouldn't be able to tell you what you can and cannot do as long as you're not harming other people. That's the ideology. That's the whole ideology. Mm-hmm. That's it. The leftist says they can have power over you in any amount of ways that they decide that they can. That's how we know that we're right.
The left and the right.
Both of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because you get one life.
Yeah.
That's it. You get one shot at this thing. I don't know. Well, maybe there's some type of reincarnation. I don't know. Probably not, I would say. As I mentioned earlier, 100% of dead people don't get to make any decisions or have any impact because they're not here.
They're not represented.
There's no consciousness alive. So you get one life. You get one life. And we believe in trying to make a society that allows you to live the best life that you can possibly live. That's exactly what we believe in. That's why we do what we do every single day.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
if you guys believe in that and you buy a t-shirt from us or you subscribe to the show, the download numbers are insane. It's actually really good.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So keep sharing that with a friend. Leave us a rating and review. Do all that. We'll be back here tomorrow. I think we might I'm going to just do this because, Nate, you're going to have to do this. Put on the Facebook page, ask us anything. Tomorrow's Friday. And so tomorrow we're going to gather some questions and you guys are going to ask us anything and we will talk about it on the show. So maybe your name will be mentioned. So do that on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And we hope you guys have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.